Hello, viewers and subscribers. Welcome to Blackford's Art of Learning. During today's lesson, we will be focusing on part 4 of our week-long lesson on evaluating arguments. The standard of focus is RI 8.8. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So welcome to middle school. And today's quote is, skill is only developed by hours and hours of work, by Usain Bolt. Today's anchor chart shows 3 key terms that we will need to know and understand for our lesson today. The first one is claim, a statement that answers the question. Evidence, the scientific data and details that support your claim. Reasoning explains how or why the evidence supports the claim. Let us watch this instructional video to learn more about evaluating a source's reasoning and evidence.
Hello, readers. How do we know what is true and what isn't? My mama always told me, don't believe everything you read. Just because someone took the time to write something down, send it off to be typeset and designed, and printed in a book or published on the internet, doesn't mean they bothered to tell you the truth. You should be skeptical of all informational writing until the writer gives you a reason to trust them. Honestly, you should be skeptical of me until I give you a reason to trust me. Who am I, after all? Just some stranger on the internet. Well, that's a little unfair, actually. You probably knew about Khan Academy well before you watched this video, which means you have a sense that the information we teach is reputable or trustworthy. So maybe I'm already at an advantage for you, trustworthiness-wise, because you associate me with an institution you already have good feelings about. When an author writes for informational purposes, they want you to believe that they're telling the truth, but you can't just accept that on faith. No human being is so important that they can't be bothered to explain themselves. Now let's be clear, that doesn't mean that everyone you disagree with personally owes you an explanation. It just means that you don't have to swallow their arguments hook, line, and sinker. So how do we move forward? We can't just go around in a nightmarish swirl of misinformation, never knowing whom to trust. That's no good. Society couldn't function. Imagine looking at the weather report and saying, I don't believe you, and then walking outside your home in shorts when the forecast calls for snow. That would be terrible. For you. The key is to ask yourself, why should you trust the weather forecast? Well, forecasters are scientists, specifically meteorologists. Their job is to study weather patterns and make predictions. And that doesn't mean they always get it right, because they're making what amounts to educated guesses about the weather. But their expertise and their access to weather monitoring equipment make them likelier to know what the weather's going to do than the average person would. And this is basically the test you should bring to all informational writing. Good readers look for clues to establish trustworthiness, to establish that the author knows what they're talking about, that they've done their research, that they're an expert worth listening to. Someone who hops on YouTube and says, here's why your teachers are lying to you about the goblins who live in the moon, is someone that warrants some skepticism, a little side-eye. Also, how awesome would it be if there were moon goblins, and why would anyone want that information to be kept secret? Okay, when you look at a text, you have to wrap your head around 3 big things. 1. The main idea or the claim. What is the author trying to say, explain, or convince you of? 2. The evidence for that claim. What are the facts, details, or other pieces of information that tell us that that claim is true or accurate? And 3. The reasoning. How does the evidence prove that the claim is true? Okay, so let's imagine that this conspiracy guy on YouTube is trying to make the case about those goblins. Let's listen in on his argument.
I firmly believe that there is a colony of goblins living inside the moon, and the government is keeping this information from you. How do we know this? Look at the moon. See that little squiggle? You were taught that was just a crater, but it isn't. It's actually the tip of an enormous goblin moon base. How do I know that? The goblins told me so. I have a special phone line from my house to the moon goblins, and through me, they can answer any questions you've got. Our moon door is always open, the goblins tell me.
All right, so what's the claim? Goblins live inside the moon. What's his proof? What we think is a crater on the moon is actually a goblin moon base. What's his reasoning? What backs that up? He says the goblins told him so. Now, is that evidence, or is that just something he's telling us? Well, one way we can know he's probably full of baloney is that only he can talk to the moon goblins. Right? He says he's got a special phone line. They can answer questions through him. We can't talk to the goblins. We can't have access to any of their information. He's behaving like the information is freely out there for anyone, but it isn't. You have to go through him. So can the stuff he's saying be independently verified? That is to say, can anyone other than this person prove that there are moon goblins or that that crater is a moon base? Are there photos or video from those goblins? And if not, why not? This doesn't pass the smell test for me. There's proof, but only I get to see it is not proof. That's just made up. When it comes to making arguments, you have to show your work. A good writer has to earn the trust of their audience. And a good reader has to make a writer work for that trust. What does that look like, I hear you asking? Excellent question. Let's take a look at a piece that does its homework. Okay, let's read. There are some conspiracy theorists that claim that NASA's moon landing missions in the late 60s and 70s never happened, despite the mountain of evidence to the contrary. They claim that the photographs were faked, the mission recordings were scripted, and the moon rocks were nothing more than ordinary Earth rocks. Perhaps you are among these conspiracists. If so, let me prove to you that the moon landings took place. Perhaps you are skeptical of the US government, which was in the middle of the Cold War with the Soviet Union, and a shooting war in Vietnam. Perhaps you believe that any information from NASA is therefore suspicious. Fortunately for you, there is plenty of third-party evidence that Americans traveled to and landed on the moon. An observatory in the UK that previously observed the Russian launch of the Sputnik probe used its radio telescope to observe the 1969 moon landing. The Bochum Observatory, this one in Germany, also confirms that mission. Finally, present-day photos from many different space agencies around the world have confirmed the presence of footprints, rover tracks, and the lunar rovers themselves. In order for a moon landing to have been faked, the rocket scientist James Michael Longuski estimates that more than 400,000 people who worked on the project in some capacity would have had to keep the conspiracy a secret. In his 2006 book, The 7 Secrets of How to Think Like a Rocket Scientist, Longuski suggests that, given how complicated it would be to fake such a project, it might actually be easier to just go ahead and do the moon landing in the first place. So, if you don't believe the US government, this writer is saying, let's look at some other sources. How do we know those sources are real? Well, we have some names to look into to independently verify it. We've got this rocket scientist. We have the name of this German observatory. We could look into and verify these statements. It's not just one guy asserting that there's goblins on the moon. It's someone saying, here are some non-NASA sources that can confirm that Americans landed on the moon. Be careful out there. It's a wild world of people who want to bend your brains and turn
your... girls, I hope you have listened to the video. So now it's your turn to share what you have learned. Let us pause the video so that you can share your responses. Now we're going to participate in a Book It activity. It's a game where we're going to review some things that we have learned while evaluating arguments. So I'm going to host the game, and a code is going to be generated, and you'll simply type that code in. So the code is 31222225. start the game. So you just need to turn our statement and choose, choose the answer. All right, we are going to stop for the sake of time. So once you have finished answering all the questions, you'll see your score. So Jane is in first place. So we're going to stop here for the sake of time. Okay. All right, let us continue with our lesson today. Okay. So today we're going to read the text, don't be them, be you. So you will have to click on the link, or you can use the worksheet that is provided. Once you click on the link, it will take you to Klasky. You'll type your name in and go to the slide. I'm going to use a cold call today. Usually when I say cold call, students will say cold call, and I'll select a student at random. So today I'm selecting Peter to read. Read the selection, then answer the questions. Don't Be Them, Be You by Liz Sanchez. We hear it all the time, up and down the hallways, in the cafeteria, or on the bus. Check out my new phone or app or hilarious selfie. Look at my new sports star endorsed shoes or my reality television star inspired outfit or hairstyle. The list goes on and on. We live in a time when there are so many must-haves that it is hard for even the most tuned-in teenager to keep up. Then there is an entire other list of must-dos, like trying out the newest video games or binge watching the newest video on demand drama series. And it seems that in the middle of all the must-haves and must-dos, we have lost something important. We have lost sight of whether we really care about any of these things at all, or whether we are allowing the fads and preoccupations of our peers to dictate our choices. We are in danger of forgetting how to be ourselves with our own preferences and perspectives. Let's highlight this point. One of the problems we struggle with is thinking we all need to look alike. Don't get me wrong, I like experimenting with new fashion and styles, but there's a difference between trying a new look because I like it and trying a new look just to fit in. If everyone's wearing it, what's so special or distinctive about it anyway? I want to wear clothes and choose styles that tell the world who I am, not who others tell me I need to be. Some days I enjoy dressing up, but other days I like my old comfortable sweatshirt, and that's okay because that is being me. I don't need an athlete's name or a sports company's logo on my shoes to have a great pair of shoes either. I'd like to think that 5 or 10 years from now, my peers will remember me for the relationships we had and how I treated them and made them feel, rather than for what I did or did not wear. We also tend to think that we all need to behave alike. For example, binge watching a current TV show and talking about it at lunch or on Monday is fine if that is what you want to do. But what about the fun of watching a series as it's released, an episode once a week for a few months, and then wondering what might happen next, what a character's motives might be, or how the storyline will resolve in the end. After all, Luke Skywalker didn't learn that Leia was his sister in Star Wars. He had to wait until Return of Jedi. If you like to enjoy stories unfolding over time with time to think and imagine, then do. Just be sure to avoid the always you know will be filled with spoilers. Then there's a selfie epidemic. That's there that there's no denying. Just take a peek at any social media site and the grinning, scowling, eye-crossing selfies are rampant. I have to say that I do a fairly good job of resisting the selfie craze. When I do post photos, I mostly post original poems. They are not the selfies most people take. They are photos of my cat Sophie sleeping, stretching, or glaring at me when I push her out of my bed. And those photos express me and my love for Sophie and poetry. They say a lot about who I am. They are not just some fleeting, insignificant moments. We can also tend to believe that we must have every new toy that comes along, and they seem to come along constantly. Everyone seems to want the latest and greatest phone loaded with all the latest and greatest apps. I had a hunch that my friends weren't that unlike me when it came to phone use. So I watched over their shoulders for about a week or so, and time spent on phones amounted to making calls, texting friends, and using only one or two of, of the dozen of apps. All that extra stuff we just had to have on our phones isn't put to use. And don't get me started on fidget toys. There are a lot of ways to deal with empty time, and not all of them involve a game, no matter what color or pattern they come in. Besides, once enough teenagers put them down in random places and forget them, aka lose them, the fidget spinner craze will be done. So is trying a new look, getting a new phone, or fiddling with a gadget wrong? Is it always a bad idea to do or try things that are enjoy that try things that others enjoy? Of course not. Paying attention to what our friends like to do can introduce us to new ideas and experiences that suit our preferences and personalities. The important thing is to remember, though, is that when we do add something to our lives, we do it because we enjoy it. We enjoy doing it and because it feels like it fits who we are. Because at our core, we are uniquely us. So this is important to remember. We need to do things that we enjoy doing, not just because others are doing it, because we are unique. All right, let us answer the questions. But let's first review any key points that we highlighted. It says we are in danger of forgetting how to be ourselves with our own perspectives. Okay, because everyone is doing selfies, they're on their phone, they're checking out apps, they're looking at their sports star indoor shoe, that they forget who they are. The important thing to remember is that when we do add something to our lives, we do it because we enjoy it and because it feels like it fits who we are. Because at core, we are uniquely us. So we are going to answer these questions. Okay, so A, number one, which sentence from the selection expresses the author's argument? So what is the author's argument in the selection? One, we live in a time when there are so many must-haves that it is hard for even the most tuned-in teenager to keep up. Okay, so yes, the author has been speaking about teenagers getting all caught up in the must-haves. So let us leave that one and we can come back. B, and it seems that in the middle of all the must-haves and must-dos, we have lost something important. That is true, but I don't think this is the author's argument. We are in danger of forgetting how to be ourselves with our own preferences and perspectives. Yes, this also looks like it could be the author's argument because the author mentioned about children or students forgetting how to be themselves with their own preferences and perspectives. So we have two options to contemplate between. Let's see which one is stronger. Let's look at D. One of the problems we struggle with is thinking we all need to look alike. I feel like this would be a reason or a type of reasoning that will support the author's argument. So we're going to cross that out. So let's look at these two and see which one is more suitable. We live in a time where there are so many must-haves that it is hard for even the most tuned-in teenager to keep up. Well, the author is not looking for the students to keep up. The author is more focused on them being themselves and with their own preferences and perspectives, and the author thinks they're in danger of forgetting themselves. So C is the most suitable answer. Number two, what type of support does the author provide for her claims in the selection? So what reasons did the author give to support her claim? So A, personal questions addressed to the reader. Well, the author didn't ask any questions. Quotations from experts that agree with her points. We don't recall any quotations from experts in the text. C, examples that are likely to be familiar to the reader. Well, I remember the author making mention of some familiar things like using a cell phone, watching a TV series, wearing the latest shoes, hairstyle, so we can all relate to that. So that seems like it could be the answer. Let's look at D, comparisons between past and present teen behavior. Well, no comparison was made between past and present teenager behavior. So C is the answer. What connection does the author see between fidget toys and many existing phone apps? So, A, both are inexpensive and easy to collect. And we can go back to the text and find what the author was saying about fidget toys. So let's take this time to go back to the text, and hopefully we can find where in the text they were talking about fidget spinners. Let's go back some more. Um, okay, let's see if it was here. Okay, so I don't see fidgets. Mm, okay. Okay, so here it is. And don't get me started on fidget toys. There are a lot of ways to deal with empty time, and not all of them involve a game. No matter what color or pattern they come in, besides, once enough teenagers put them down in random places and forget them, aka lose them, the fidget spinner craze will be done. So, okay. So let's see. What connection does the author use to fidget toys and many existing phones? So, A, both are inexpensive and easy to collect. I didn't read anything that made mention of that. Both are purchases kids do not need or value. So the author spoke about the kids just after using the fidget spinner, they would just put it down and then they forget about it and they aka lose it. So obviously kids do not need or value these. So B could be an option. C, both can provide a good distraction on a busy day. I would say I didn't read anything relating to that. Both enable friends to stay in contact with each other. Well, the fidget spinner cannot have students stay in contact with each other. It's not a communication device. So that one is also out. So B is our most suitable answer. Why did the author most likely write this selection? Huh? To inform teachers of an issue they should be aware of. Mm. Well, no, they didn't speak of any issue that they're bringing to any teacher's attention. So, to share surprising new research with kids and their parents. No research was being shared with any parent or kid. C, to persuade students to resist peer pressure and be themselves. That seems like it could be an answer because it spoke about the kids doing activities that they see other kids doing and not being themselves. So they are succumbing to peer pressure rather than trying to be their unique self and display their individuality. So this could be an answer. D, to argue that teenagers' lives have become more complex and difficult. Well, not quite. It didn't speak about their life being more complex or difficult. It just mentioned that they're trying to be like other students. They're forgetting themselves. Okay. So C is the most suitable answer. Okay, look, number 5, based on the selection, how does the author feel she differs from her peers? Okay, So I can remember in the text, the author was saying she's quite fine not wearing wearing shoes that was endorsed by a celebrity. She's just fine wearing regular shoes. Let's see if we can find that. So that's how the author differs. The author doesn't want to be, so it says, some days I enjoy dressing up, but other days I like my old comfortable sweatshirt. It also says, I don't need an athlete's name or a sports company logo on my shoes to have a great pair of shoes either. So that shows that the author is comfortable in her own skin. She doesn't want to be like someone else. All right, so A, she does not want clothes endorsed by celebrities. That seems like it could be a possible answer. So let's leave that one and move on. She spends very little time using her phone. No, she has no interest in looking fashionable. Well, not because she doesn't want to endorse shoes or clothes. That doesn't mean she doesn't want to look fashionable. She still wears what she wants and still looks good. She cares about being nice to people. Well, that was not mentioned. So A is the most suitable response. Okay. Okay. 6, what effect does the use of the word we in the selection have on the reader? So in the selection, the author used we. We can also tend to believe that we must have every new toy. So why does the author use we in the selection? A, it shows that the author is willing to disclose personal information to prove her point. No, if she says we, then that's not personal. So that one is out. B, it underscores for the reader that the author's message is about belonging. No, the author is not talking about belonging. She's not trying to send a message of belonging or belonging into a group or fitting into a group. No. It establishes a connection between the author and the intended reader. So yes, because the author is saying we, so the author is trying to connect herself, the author, to the readers, making a connection. And that's why she's using everyday situations that both the reader and the author can relate to. So this could be a possible answer. D, it helps the reader picture the scenarios the author describes. Not quite. So C is the answer. Number 7, this question has 2 parts. First, answer part A, then answer part B. Part A, based on the selection, what can the reader conclude about the author? Okay, so let's look at the options. Okay. A, she values her relationship with peers. Yes, she actually does. B, she believes games are a waste of time. No, that's not sufficient reasoning. She much prefers comfortable clothing to fancy clothing. She does, but that's not the most important thing that we can conclude about her. She feels embarrassed by some of the TV viewings. No, she never expressed that point. So she values her relationship with her peers. So we know that because she spoke about adding something to our lives, she expressed that we need to do things that we appreciate doing or enjoy doing, and because it feels like it fits who we are. Because at our core, we are unique. So she values people and her friends. Let's see if we can look at another reasoning. Right, she doesn't want her friends to lose themselves because of everything that's happening around them. She wants her friends to have their own perspective. So that shows that she values her friends and wants the best for them. Okay, and that's why she keeps using we. Okay. Let's look. Okay, so that supports our answer. Okay, let's look at the final one. A, read the paragraph. Well, we have to do part B. Which sentence from the selection supports the answer to part A? Which supports the fact that she values her relationship with her peers? Okay, so A, some days I enjoy dressing up, but other days I like my old comfortable sweatshirt, and that's okay because that's being me. Well, this doesn't quite support the fact that she values her peers because it spoke about I, and this doesn't make mention of her peers. I and me. I'd like to think that 5 or 10 years from now, my peers will remember me for the relationships we had and how I treated them and made them feel, rather than for what I did or did not wear. So this looks like she values her friends and her relationship with them. So this seems to support the fact that she values her relationship with her peers. Let's leave that one and return. For example, binge watching a current TV show and talking about it at lunch on Monday is fine if that is what you want to do. So that one doesn't support that claim. There are a lot of ways to deal with empty time, and not all of them involve a game, no matter what color or pattern they come in. So this has nothing to do with her friend, so that one is also incorrect. B is the correct option. Read the paragraph from the selection. Then there's the selfie epidemic, and there's no denying. Just take a peek at any social media site, and the grinning, scowling, eye-crossing selfies are rampant. That means they're prevalent. They're very popular. I have to say that I do a fairly good job of resisting the selfie craze. When I do post photos, I mostly post original poems. They are not the selfies most people take. They are photos of my cat Sophie sleeping, stretching, or glaring at me when I push her out of my bed. And those photos express me and my love for Sophie and poetry. They say a lot about who I am. They are not just some fleeting, insignificant moment. Which words in the paragraph provide context clues to help the reader determine the meaning of rampant? Okay. All right. So when something is on like on a rampant, like it's a lot going on, like you're it's like an outbreak of something. So A, does selfie or media tell us the meaning of rampant? No. B, epidemic or craze. Well, epidemic has to do with an outbreak. Craze is something that, it's going on. It's prevalent, you know. C, resisting express, no. D, post photo, no. So B is the correct response. So thank you, boys and girls, for your hard work. And we are going to start our small group lesson. And during small group time, you're going to be working on these activities. You're going to be doing read works, becoming a doctor. And once you click on the ReadWorks link and type in your class code, you're going to see the passage. And you can either read the passage on your own or you can have it being read by clicking
Becoming a Doctor by Samantha Gross. At age 29, Marla Shue had spent 19 years of her
reading or listening to the story. You are going to answer these questions and submit it to me. And once you have submitted it, I will receive your score. Then you're going to do Nearpod by clicking on the link, evaluating arguments. You're going to type your name. You can use your first name. Hit join lesson, and we're doing tracing and evaluating arguments. Okay. You're going to do a draw it activity, and you're going to click on the PDF, and it says read the passage, then trace the argument in the passage by filling in the graphic organizer. You're going to provide evidence and reason for the claim in the text. Then you're going to do a matching activity. You're also going to answer open-ended questions, then show what you know by taking a quiz with 3 questions. Okay, and it all has to do with arguments. Once you have completed Nearpod, you're going to complete your student slide and you're going to continue practicing evaluating arguments. Now you're going to be looking at phones in school and you're going to figure out what is the author's claim about phones in school. Once you have finished reading, you are going to complete this graphic organizer by stating the author's point, reasons, and evidence. Then you're going to tell, do you agree with the author's point? Why or why not? While you're doing your small group activity, I will be at my table working with a small group as well. Please remember the rule of the group. You do not interrupt me at a group. You sit quietly and work on your activities. Once we have all completed our activities, we're going to do a reflection and feedback. You're going to do glows, grow, and questions. So for glows, you're going to share what you did well during this task by typing your response. And for grow, you're going to tell about what you will work on to grow with this task or standard. And then you're going to ask a question about this task or standard, and I will answer it once you submit your Google slide. So thank you for watching, guys. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and turn on the post notification bell. Once again, boys and girls, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and turn on the post notification bell. Please be on the lookout for other videos.